Well, it's Christmas season. I think it's time for a Christmas-themed tutorial. Today we're going to make random snowflakes in Figma using generator. Now this particular example can be found in tutorials and examples under the Shapes tab. It's called snowflakes. But we're going to make it from scratch. So let me zoom to 100, let me zoom to 100. And we're going to create a rectangle, a box. We're going to give it a white color. And this is going to become the stem of one of the 6 branches of a snowflake. So we're going to call it stem. You see that the object name changed. So now we need to scale it. The rectangle node has width and height built in. The problem with this is that this works around the top left corner, which is not really useful for making symmetrical stuff. So we're going to bring this back to 100 by 100 and add a scale node. The way I'm doing this is I'm pressing Control/ and typing scale and holding Control when I press Enter. The other way I can do this is go to the Shapes menu, Transform, Scale, and again hold Control when I press Enter, so it's auto-connected. And now we can say width is something like this. Let's say 5%. Now this is the stem. The next thing we need to do is we need to make a branch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a group node. There we go. And I'm going to call it branch. So now the stem sits inside of a branch. And then I need to rotate or make a copy of this. Like I can make a separate rectangle, but I can just make a copy of it as well, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring a rotate node over here. And I'll rotate this. Whoops, this is weird. Check this out. So what's happening is that as I'm rotating the rectangle, it's actually staying inside the 5% scaling that I just did. The reason for that is that when I scaled it, I had scale space enabled. If I disable it, now I can rotate the rectangle just fine. Also, I can plug this into here. And if I double click, I activate the branch, and now I see both at the same time. Another issue is that I don't want to rotate around the center. I want to rotate around this base point. So to do that, first of all, I'm going to say show center, which shows now where it's rotated around. By the way, when you enable show center, that adds a center object. The Figma API doesn't allow you to do any canvas decoration, so it has to be an object. And just be careful, if you have a lot of objects that are showing their centers, that's twice as many objects. So now in here, we need to insert a center node. And if I now run this wire through here, through the center node, and set the Y position to 0%, I'm rotating my leaf around the base, which is what I want. Now the other issue is, let me move these off to the side. The other thing I want to do is I want to rename this. So right now we have a branch, 2 stems, which I shouldn't have. I want to just have 1 stem, and rotate, which is the center. So I can disable the center for now. But I want to rename one of these to leaf. So what I do is I go over here, get set object name, and run this wire through here. In the future, I'll add a way to automatically do this. For now, we just do it by hand. So now there's a stem and an empty object, and an object that's just free floating because I need to deactivate this by shift double clicking it. So now if I type in leaf in here, the object is now renamed. Now I would also like to scale this. So let me go get a scale node, run it through here. And if I now make it shorter, that works really well. I also want to move it. So again, I go here, I say move. I run this wire through here. The reason I'm doing it by hand is there's a bug right now with auto-connecting towards a group node, which I'll fix eventually. But for now, we're going to do it like this. And I'll double click this again so that only the final result is active. They're not extra objects in here or duplicates and stuff. And now I'm going to move this. but you see it's moving along the leaf's y-axis, not along the stem's y-axis. That's because when I rotated the leaf, I also rotated the space right here. So if I disable that, whoops, it's weird again, because now it's squashed, which makes sense because as I'm changing the height here, I'm now squashing it vertically around this base point. So I need to disable scale space. Wait, that doesn't work either. That's because now it's just doing it around the center point, around the base point of the leaf instead of the base point of the stem. So the way to fix this is to actually just swap these two around. So I run this into here, I run this into here, and I connect it like so. So first we scale, then we rotate. And now, first of all, I can scale my leaf how I want. Second of all, I can rotate my leaf how I want around the base. And third of all, I can position it how I want along the stem. So that's one leaf. I think what I also would like to do is make a symmetrical copy on the other side. So the way I'm going to do that is actually I'm going to swap these two. I'm going to first scale, then move, then rotate. And the reason I'm going to do that, it still works the same way, just because the scaling was done first. The reason I'm going to do that is because I want to have another rotate. So I'm going to copy this by holding Alt or Option on a Mac. And I'm going to say -34 in this case, and I'll run it into the group, into the branch. And now I have two copies. But I don't want to adjust these separately. I want them to be actually symmetrical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a math node, put it in the middle, set it to minus, and then run this angle to here and this result to here. And so now whatever value I set up here is going to be mirrored on the other side. Now that I have this, I'm realizing that actually the move here is, it should be afterwards. So I'm going to delete it by holding Control. This was just deactivated, but that's okay, we'll bring it back. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a combine node because I want to bring these together because I'm going to be moving them together. And now I'm going to say move. Right, and now this move is going to go in here, and I can get rid of this. And I'm going to double click on this to see the result. There you go. So now I have a symmetrical set of leaves on this branch. And I can move them up and down. Now I'm going to set this to 60 degrees because that seems to be how snowflakes form. Actually, I can set it to any value, it doesn't really matter. But now I want to repeat them along this stem. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to say, I'm going to bring a repeat, plug it into here, plug this into here. And now there's a whole bunch of leaves. I don't need 5 copies, I'm going to have 3. I think that's going to be enough. You can put as many as you want. But they're all in the same place. If you just hover over all the shapes, you'll see that they're basically in the same spot. So what we need is a sequence to move them as they're repeated. And so what I'm going to plug this into the Y. I don't think I want it to start at 0, so I'm going to start it at maybe over here. And I'm going to increase the step, the add, a little bit more. There you go. Now we have a stem, 6 leaves inside of a branch. And we can rotate them. Let's highlight this node so we can see the rotation. Let's make it blue. All right, so now we know where to go for a rotation. And now we have a nice part of a snowflake. Now we need to repeat this branch 6 times. So we're gonna repeat. No, we're gonna rotate. Let's see how it rotates. It rotates around the center. So again, we need to add a center node and bring the Y to 0. We can enable show center right here. And the show center always respects only the last active node. So for example, if I turn it on here but turn it off here, you're not going to see it. It's got to be in the last node. And because I set the Y to 0, the rotation now happens around the base how I want it. And so I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to repeat it 6 times. This count value includes the existing copy. Now check this out, this is weird. The stems are all in the same place, the leaves are all, basically this Y over here, this sequence, every time the new leaves are created, it just keeps pushing them down. So we got to cut this off. And the way we do that is we loop this sequence to this repeat. There you go. That just means that the sequence only affects the Y position inside of this loop. Then we need a, we're going to do a range, because a range makes it easier to rotate stuff and have it be evenly spaced. So we're going to plug this into the angle. Nothing happens because a range has to be looped to a repeat. And then we do this. This is a little weird because we need to set from to start and end to 360. There you go. We got a snowflake. But this snowflake is a little bit too uniform. I would like to have, let's go back to just a branch. I would like to have the length of each of these to be random, but symmetrical. So that means I need to go to my scale node. Let's make this green so it's easier to find. And I need to add a random node to drive the height. Now right now the height is 46. Let's say that the height is going to be between like 5 and 40, something like this. Plug this into the height. That's random. Let's run through some seeds. Yeah, it's not bad. Let's see how the whole snowflake looks. Well, it's looking a little weird, and as you can see, each branch has a different randomness to it. This is not what we want. What we want is for the randomness to be applied to just the branch and then be copied as it is. So what we need to do is we need to insert a combine node in here, because we need to loop both of these to the repeat, and the way to do that is with a combine node. So they're jumping all over the place because I removed the loop. And now if I bring this random to the combine node, all of a sudden you see that each branch is the same as all the other branches. But if we run through some seeds of the random, then we get nice variations on the snowflakes. Actually, let's make the sequence step a little bit bigger. All right, that looks pretty good. So we have a random snowflake. This is actually what Generator is really good at making stuff that you can do once by hand pretty easily, but then if you want to change something, you have to redo it all by hand. With Generator, it takes a little bit more setup in the beginning, but then if you want to get a different random snowflake, it's done. So let's get some more snowflakes. By the way, you can see here that, oh, and let me turn off show center because I don't need it. You can see here that this has generated 48 objects. So Generator has a practical ceiling of like 1,000 some odd objects, just because having Figma create and recreate all these objects takes a little bit of time as the amount grows. So we need to watch this number. 48 is not much, but as we keep repeating the snowflakes, it's going to grow fast. So let's see. I think we want to put it into a frame, just so that we know what we're working with. So let's create a frame. Let's say that this frame is going to be 1,000 by 1,000. I like to give them round corners, so I'm going to say 20. And I want to put a gradient. So let's see. I want a blue color, another blue color, Then I'm going to get a gradient. I'm going to plug this in here, plug this in here, and then I'm going to go and change this to a little more cyan and this to a little bit more just normal blue. All right, and then I plug this into style. And so now you see that the frame is filled with a gradient, but it's a little bit, I think I want it vertical, so I'm going to rotate it. Which way am I going to rotate it? No, I want to rotate it in the positive direction, so I'm going to say 90 degrees. But you see that this half is completely light, and then the gradient only starts here. That's because of the way gradients work in Generator, and this one starts at 50, so we need to start it at 0. There you go, that's our gradient. Wait, no. The sky will get darker with height, so actually we do need to rotate it, minus 90. And now we need to bring y to 100. There you go, that's the gradient. So we have our frame, and then we're going to plug the snowflake into the frame. All right. Let me move this off to the side. Now I want to repeat the snowflake, but first, so I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to repeat it, okay, 5 times for now, just so we can get it going and figure out how things are going to be working. I need to insert a move node because I want it to be, I want them to be in different places. And I need to insert a rotate node. Why does it keep disconnecting? This is a bug. I'll fix it. And I think I want to have it, I'm going to add a scale node. Right. Now I'm going to go over here. See, now we're at almost 300 objects, and now it's getting a little wonky. All right. Now we need to randomize all of this stuff. So first we're going to randomize the move. So I'm going to say it's going to go from 0 to, not 1,000 because the snowflakes have a size. What was it, like 100? So I'm going to make it to 800. There we go. What is happening? What's happening is that the spaces of each of the branches are still sort of, they still belong to themselves. The way to fix that, let me move this out of the way, is to reset them. This is like in 3D software, you'll have a reset transform or something like that. And here it's just called reset space. So when I do that, and of course it disconnects because of the bug, all the snowflakes are now whole, because now the transformations of each snowflake happen as if they were created in place and not made up of individual parts, because their spaces have been reset. They're all on the same page, so to say. Now that the space is reset, I'm going to, so I randomized the X. Now I need a different random for the Y. They're randomized diagonally just because the seed is the same. So let's just give it a different seed. Let's like, whatever. There you go. So now we got some random snowflakes. Same thing for the rotation. It's going to be from 0 to 360. Give it a different seed. Plug it into here. All right, now they're rotated. And the same thing for the scale. Randomize the seed. I think this is going to be the largest one that I want, so I'm going to go from like 50 to 100. And then I can plug this into both the width and the height. And I got some random snowflakes. Let me get some more. Let's say I want 20. Right. I guess I underestimated where they are, so I do need to set this to 1,000 and 1,000. Now this is taking a little bit of time to update each time because we're working with 900, almost 1,000 objects. But this is now looking like something that we want. The only issue is that each snowflake is the same. I mean, they're random, but they're all random in the same way. And we can check this by going over here and changing this seed. And now you see that they all change the same way. The way to fix this is we need another random node to drive this seed. So let's say this is going to be from 0 to 10,000. I mean, you can put the seeds as whatever you want. We plug it in here. But now again, you see that each branch is different. Just because each time a new branch is created, this random, which is not tied to anything, is giving it new values. So what we need to do is we need to bring it over here to the final repeat. Unfortunately, you have to do this by zooming out for now. Where's the final repeat? This is the final repeat. And we plug it in here. So now the final sort of largest loop is driving the randomness of each snowflake. And there you go. Now each snowflake is symmetrical, but different, because every time this repeat asks for it, I'm going to highlight it as, let's say, yellow. So now when the yellow repeat asks for it, you get new random values. The last thing we need to do, I like to make bell shapes. It's easier that way to figure out where the loops are. The last thing I want to do is add some blur to these. The way to do this is, we can do this after reset space, for instance. We have to plug in an apply style node. Yeah, again, it's getting disconnected. I will fix this. Apply style basically applies any new style to existing objects. Existing meaning the ones you've created before. This is going to take a little bit of time to update each time because we're running into the practical ceiling, like I said. There we go. But I actually want to see the final result with the frame. If Figma lets us, in the API, update objects in batches, not one by one, this is going to be greatly accelerated, I hope. So, apply style. What we need to apply is a layer blur. So we plug this into style. What's going to happen now is that all of them are going to become slightly blurred, as you can see. To make it more interesting, we bring a random node. We say we want it blurred from 0 to, for example, 40. And then when we plug that into here, we get our snowflakes. The one additional thing to do is to have all the random seeds run from one seed generator. The way to do that is we can say random, repeat, and list. The easiest way to do this is just to bring it over here every time. So this random will get one seed from the list. Let's find the next random. The second one goes here. In cases where this is too slow, you can always just reduce the number of objects, the number of final repeats. And then you work with like 5 objects and then just update it at the end. Then the third one is going to go here. This one gets a random seed. And this one gets a random seed. Anything else? Yeah, scale needs a seed. So we can add one more seed. and we can plug it into here. Now let's bring this all the way back. There's something funky going on with the cables. We'll figure this out. All right, so now I can go back and add some more snowflakes. And if you don't like this distribution, you can come back to this sort of mother seed. Let's put it in a panel so we can always find it. And then we can just play with the seed here. And this one random will then regenerate the seeds for all the other randoms, and you get a completely different distribution of snowflakes. This is not something you could ever do by hand in Figma. It would just be way too tedious, and how many of these can you try out? Here you can try out new ones all day without basically any extra work. And there's no way you can do this without a tool like Generator. You know what? I like the previous one better. So there you go. Random snowflakes in Figma using Generator.